Okay, well, I know Gail has a lot of feelings about this, so let's talk about it right off the bat. What do you think about, yes, Gail, the government's plan that has American taxpayers spending billions to rescue private companies? Question is, what should we do about it? What should we buy? What should we sell? Should you hold on to your stock investments? A lot of people have rage. Should you stop spending on everything but the bare necessities? Now, joining us this morning to give us some financial advice is consumer finance advisor Eric Solis. Come on,
Eric.
Hello, Eric.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Thank you so much
Eric
for
is,
having
we're going to
me.
get your chair and everything. Eric is the CEO of Save252.com. Make yourself at home.
Thank you.
What in the world should we do?
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing that we shouldn't do is panic. I think that...
But is that easier said than done?
It is absolutely easier said than done, but people often ask me, Eric, what should we be doing? And I like the progression of that question because it's first, what should we be, and then what should we do? And it's really important to be secure, thoughtful, deliberate towards any action that you're going to take. That's the do. So I think that if we start there, at least we open the doors to the possibilities that are in front of us.
So what can we do? I'm a consumer at home. I've got bank accounts. I've got mortgages. What can I do, Joe Average, right now, today?
All right, so what you ought to be doing is sitting down and taking a look at exactly where you're spending your money. And I will assure you, and I did this for myself, and I found that I was paying about $90 in bills and expenses and subscriptions that I could easily cut out. And so start by looking at things, you know, magazine subscriptions that are sitting on the table.
Right.
Unread.
Okay, how about the stock market, right? Everybody wants to know, get in, get out, what to do at this particular moment.
Rather than get in, get out, which is a timing issue, I would assert that it's time to save more, not less. If you're thinking about reducing your contributions to your 401k, bad idea. At Save252, in fact, we're telling people, Save252.com, we're telling people, look, determine how much you can save each and every day, whether it's $1, $5, $20, and then commit to making that happen, and then look for ways in your behavior that you can pull that savings together on a daily basis.
But saving's different from investing, though.
Yeah, that's a good question. And saving money is the behavior. Investing is what you do with it.
Okay.
I've always had this thought that I'm not a good saver, not nearly as good as I should be. You know what?
Stop telling yourself that.
But they try to do it the other way. Gosh, if I can just make more money, if I can just pick up an extra job somewhere, do it that way. And Gail's going,
Yeah.
Is that a good approach?
Look, I mean, there are times when it's very appropriate to take on a second job and to do what you've got to do to survive. And I think that right now is a good time to be thinking about what do we need to do to survive. On the flip side of that, though, I think it's equally as important to determine what we value. You know, we're hearing a lot about sitting around the kitchen table and having conversation about what's important to us. But I'll tell you, that's where this starts, the rubber meets the road. You have children, is it worth taking time away from your children to work a second job? It's about what we value in life and then investing in those things.
I have a question about the bailout because there's so many discussions. How could we do this? How can we help these institutions? Their mistake, they're bad. But what if we didn't? What if we didn't bail out these companies and however many billions of dollars it is up to today? What do you think is your,
What would happen?
Yeah, what is your opinion? What do you think would happen if we didn't bail these institutions
Well, yeah,
out?
I mean, to answer the question with any level of certainty, as you know, is
near
a
impossible.
slippery slope.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important to understand that failure and banks closing and going through the catharsis that comes along with poor decision making is part of the process in capitalism. And I think it's important that at both the organizational, corporate level, as well as at the individual level, that we have a very high level of accountability. I will say publicly that I have my doubts about a $700 billion bailout that starts at the top and doesn't find its way into taxpayers' hands. I mean, if it were me and I were making the decision, I would much rather see people get the money, then decide what debts are best for them to pay off, and then that would be, in essence, another way to infuse capital into the banks.
Gail wanted to jump in here, and we'll translate for you if you can't hear.
No, you don't want me to jump in.
Oh, are you a little angry right now? Okay, sorry. I thought you wanted in.
All I want to say is this, Eric, and I know about this bailout and the whole situation. I don't know how you want to answer this, okay? But what do you say to the people like me? We work hard, we save, because, and people have a decent job, make a decent living, and couldn't buy a house. So you say, okay, I'll wait. I won't get a liar loan. I'll sacrifice. I'll shop in thrift shops. I'll scrimp and save. And then what happens? People who are about to retire and the people who've been saving, now we're going to get nailed on both ends. The people who are about to retire, I don't know what they're going to do because they're seeing their nest egg evaporate. And then the people who have scrimped and saved to buy a house, to replicate the 2-bedroom apartment I have, it costs $1.9 million because I've looked. And it's not even the same square footage. So now, if I'm able to save enough to buy a house, the credit's going to have to be perfect, and they're going to want 25 to 30%. So what do you say to these people who have done it the right way and are still going to get screwed?
All right, but could you hear her? Let me translate a little bit before her cap falls off her head. What she's saying is, what if you're one of the good guys and you sort of followed the rules completely?
You did it right.
And you did everything you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And
Didn't get a liar loan.
Gail's very hardworking. She didn't try to get one of these deceptive loans.
Yeah.
She feels she's still priced out of the housing market.
Yeah.
She's concerned about people who are going to retire soon and their savings has evaporated.
Yeah.
You know, the people who did what you're supposed to do, and that didn't work.
Are going to have to pay for this bailout.
That is the irony of this action being taken by our government, is that those that made sound investment decisions are in fact the ones that are paying the biggest price, because they're nowhere
And
into
live
the
within their
consideration
means.
of how, you know, at what point do we begin to reward good behavior? And so I think that the question is right on the money, and I think that it is what we need to be talking about as a society. And I want to compliment your program, by the way, for bringing this front and center.
Now, my thought right now is, and correct me if I'm right, you know, like they always say, you know, buy low, sell high.
Terrible.
Now, what happened there was wild during those .coms, where everybody made, you know, $1 zillion overnight, and that's our typical, you know, greed. But they say, like, if you invested in Coca-Cola 50 years ago, you would be made. Fine. So is it, you know, now that all markets are down, like if you go to a Coca-Cola or a Budweiser or you know, one of those, you know, and invest in those, is it a good time to invest in those? And knowing that, okay, I'm not going to see a return in 5 years, but in 20 or 30 years, is this the time to be?
Time to buy.
Yes, I mean, again, I think it's time to increase your savings. I think it's time to press forward. I'll tell you, I'll say this. We need to buy back America $1 at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 person at a time. I mean, that's my motto. And at Save252.com, I would suggest that people begin to explore ways that fit into their lifestyle to do exactly as you're suggesting, and that is invest for the long run. Look for ways to begin saving. If you're a saver already, increase it. If you haven't started yet, get started.
And you're telling us this because they're going to make it harder for us to borrow, and we're going to need to put more down on everything from cars to homes to. Is that part of the reason?
I'm suggesting this.
Or just to have it?
I'm suggesting this because there is a mindset of stewardship, and I think that this is a concept that needs to come out. As we become good stewards of the resources that we're entrusted with, there's a behavioral shift and change that begins to come forth in the way that we engage with our money and with the people in our lives. So that's the reason for doing it. Again, it's the be, then the do.
So Eric, I take it you're not a mattress, bank money in the mattress kind of guy then?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to even be worse than $700 billion, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's not going to stop there, correct?
well, it's $700 billion at any one time. So in other words, they have the ability to turn that over several times, which could turn into trillion. It is really a blank check.
Eric Solis is the CEO
Scary.
of Save252.com.
That's correct.
Thank you for helping us this
Thank
morning.
you so much.
It's my
Thanks for
pleasure.
looking at it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.